Hey, you're listening to Getting Real with Réal Andrews and Alex Urbina right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We're excited that you joined us today. Don't forget to download your free KHTS app so you can take us anywhere, because that's really cool. I was in the Caribbean last week on a ship in the middle of nowhere, and when our show was airing, I wanted to see if it worked, so I had my app on, and I was actually listening to the show, and I said, this is pretty cool. I got nervous, though, because I didn't know if I was paying the $40 a minute bill or whatever, but it works. It's pretty cool. We love to hear from you. Give us a call at 661-298-5487. That's 661-29-KHTS. Our show is brought to you by our good friends, the Rebeccas, at therebeccas.com. You can give them a call for information on buying a house, selling a house, 661-290-3880. We're actually going to have them on the show later, and we're going to be getting some interesting tips about buying that house, and I'm excited to hear about that. So today, my name's Réal Andrews. I'm the host, one of the hosts here. I go back, 30-something years now when I've been working with people. I've owned 3 of my own gyms. I've been very passionate about helping people achieve their goals, but along the way I realized that I had a real kind of a niche, if you will, to help them not only to achieve their goals, but to be more than they could believe in their own selves. And recently, I got hooked up with a great buddy of mine now. We've become really good friends, Alex Urbina, and he's a life transformation coach. And together, I kind of really see us as the 1-2 punch. Alex, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, my job is to help people get inside the gap from where they are to where they want to be, and really focus on overcoming some of those challenges that get in the way of their full potential. And it could be anything from interpersonal fears to doubts, insecurities, some of your past, or maybe it's just opening up the possibility of shifting their perspective to be able to see things that they couldn't see before.
That's awesome. And we talk about shifting their perspective. We're going to jump right in. I had something and I actually was thinking as I was getting ready for the show, Alex, I can see how my perspective has shifted already from working with you, because where I'm going with this is I was faced with an issue today with my own sibling, something that in the past I have no tolerance for at all. What I'm talking about is bullying. I grew up in a small town, North Vancouver, BC. I was the only African American in a large graduating class of over 1,200, so you could imagine I graduated in '81, what that life was like. So it's something that I've really carried with me all my life, and I've had no tolerance for it at all. And in the past, in my household, prior to working with you, when that issue came up in any sense or of what all, I was very adamant, almost arrogant about it, like, this is not going to happen. I will not tolerate it. But as this happened today, I was finding myself looking at it from a different point of view, and I was finding myself, I'm going to call Alex, I got a call from my son's principal, and apparently my son is involved in this new thing that the kids are doing where they pick a kid and they roast him, and which is basically a nice word for bullying somebody. He had Snapchatted somebody and said, who should we pick on today? Apparently the girl took a freeze frame of it. Her mom took it to the principal, so he kind of got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And I was going to come to you and say, what do I do?
Well, first off, I want to talk a little bit about the distinction of roasting versus bullying. When you talk about roasting, I think of the distinction of roasting as being something that maybe adults can handle, or even some adults can't handle even roasting. But I think more mature, confident, assured people that don't take themselves too seriously. They can laugh at some of their quirkiness or some of their insecurities or things that their shortcomings or whatever it is, and it's not a big deal. People that I think that have mastered a certain level of maturity, and amongst those types of people in that circle, it's okay to roast each other because you kind of create that relationship that you don't take yourself that serious. But when you're dealing with people that really haven't mastered their insecurities, and it's something that's real delicate, you can be roasting somebody or saying something or pointing something out. It could just be an observation, and if it just hits the that certain person that there's an insecurity there, they can be offended by it. And I think little kids, they haven't got to that level. They haven't mastered their own confidence and their assuredness in themselves, and so it's very it shouldn't be going on, I think, at that level, and especially in that age, or especially in school. But unfortunately, we're in a world where roasting is I guess the hip thing to do now. I think celebrities are doing it, and kids are watching that, thinking that, oh well, it's the new trend, or I can do it, and they don't realize that if you do it to the wrong person, it could really hurt their feelings. And so I think that's really what's going on in this scenario. Is I don't think kids mean to hurt each other's feelings, but it ends up, somebody does end up getting hurt because you do it to the wrong person and they take it personally.
Alex, I'm curious. So you said, but I'm wondering, because you said kids, I don't think kids really mean to hurt each other. I'm wondering, are they intentional when they do it? Because I do know that there's nobody meaner than kids. And so I'm wondering, are they really not in touch with what they're doing? Or do you think some of them are intentional about what they're doing?
I think that most kids are really unconscious, and they want approval, and they want to be liked. And one person does it, and then everyone else starts laughing. And so no one has enough confidence in themselves to say, hey, you know what, this isn't cool. They just don't have that confidence to speak up and speak up for the person that maybe is on the other end of it. And they don't know how to use their voice like that. They don't know how to say, no, this isn't cool. They're not leaders yet. They don't know how to be able to stand up and be the only one to challenge everybody and say, this isn't cool. We shouldn't be doing this. So what happens is everyone just goes along with it, or they just stay quiet. And I think you staying quiet when you see something that shouldn't be happening or you don't like is just like going along with it, because you're not against it. You're not standing up and saying, this isn't cool. This isn't something that is tolerable. And so, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and Alex, it's something that I teach, and it's because I don't know how I had the insight, because let me just paint this picture for you a little bit. So we're going back to 1979, 1978. I was the only African American in this school. I was only African American in this school, and I had the velvet pants, the bell-bottom pants. I had the 3-inch platform, shoes, and so I was kind of looking like, I don't know, the mod squad in the school. And I'm sure now I look back at it, and I graduated with a crushed velvet red suit. But I was the guy, even though I was the jock, and I was kind of in with the in crowd, I kind of hung out with the out crowd. I was the guy that stood up for the kids that got picked on, because I was kind of a tough guy and people feared me and stuff like that, but I wasn't a follower. And one of the things I say with kids when I'm coaching them, I'll do something which I got from another coach once. I'll say, how many of y'all want to be popular? And everybody will raise their hand. And then I said, how many of y'all want to be leaders? And they will raise their hand. I said, you can't be both, because popular people aren't liked. You want to be a leader, you need to stand up. And I try to tell my kids that all the time. I guess that's why I'm a little bothered by this, because it's nothing that comes from my house as far as I know. So I guess my question to you is, I'm trying to figure out, where did that mixed signal come up? Because I'm hoping that I'm saying, I don't want you guys, if you see kids that are being picked on, I know this is tough. I know, especially in school, it's tough to be a leader and stand up, but you need to stand up for those people. So how is it that he's not seeing that message, or he's not?
Well, like I said, he's young and very, got his own insecurities. It's not a bad thing. It's just he's trying to figure out who he is and figure out who he is, probably even in your own family, trying to figure out who he is in his school, and he's trying to figure out who he is in the world. And in that process, as you're trying to figure it out, all of a sudden you have your peers that you just takes one of them to start clowning around or start making fun of somebody, and you got a bunch of kids that don't know who they are, and they want to be liked by that person, and so everyone just kind of goes along. It's kind of like this trend. It's a trend that's happening, and not one of them has, I think, the confidence to just stand up and say, this isn't cool, and all it takes is one. I think it takes one person, and I think you'll see the other ones will kind of go along with it and cause a new trend. And I think that's just the way it is. It's the way the world is.
Because I think, like, I commend the mom because that's where the problem starts a lot. I know I've been in different situations along the way where my kids were on the receiving end, and the parents, they were brought in, the kids, my kid, the other kid, we were there, the other parents were there, but the other parents were like doing nothing. So a lot of times that's the problem. But as I'm hearing you talk, I think what I really want to make sure that people don't miss, or especially if there's any kids listening to this, and I'm sure you've dealt with people, and I hope you've been able to save them all, but I know that this world is missing kids that were bullied, that it hurt them so much that they chose to do the most drastic thing, take their life, or it chose them to drive to, they're the one of the kids we see on the news that shows up and shoots up a school. So this is a serious problem.
Absolutely, especially in a world that's growing and advancing so much in technology, and there's a lot of emphasis on reality TV, and you're watching things that you're laughing at, and you're seeing people do pranking and doing jokes, and so it's become now part of our world where we're seeing those things, and the young kids they're laughing at it. You're going through Facebook and you're looking at all these little videos, and they're laughing at the most silliest, craziest things, or they're pranking each other. And so I think kids don't know where to draw the line, and it really takes a parent to be involved in that, to sit down and have open discussions at the family table at dinner, which I'm realizing is a lost art. Dinners today's world is a lost art. They're just not happening where we're all sitting around and we're having conversations about deep, meaningful conversations. And so I think it's a great opportunity for families to sit around and talk about these kinds of things, like not just once a year or once every couple of years, but talk about all the time, opening up these discussions. And I think it really comes to having conscious parents that make a commitment to do that kind of work with their kids, especially when they're young.
I think and make a commitment. You made me accountable right there, because as I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about my house. I'm thinking about that nice brown wood kitchen table that we have with the nice chairs all around it, and we never sit at it.
Yeah.
We have, we don't. We make a nice meal. My wife makes a nice meal. She feeds the kids, and then I go take my plate over to my computer, and I eat over there, and she does what she does, and then they're all at the table, and he's on his iPad while he's eating. And so, and that's a great time for us to sit down and say, how was your day?
Yeah, but it only takes one of you, whether it's you or your wife, to say, you know what, I'm going to invite everybody to, let's clean this table off, because a lot of times our kitchen tables just have stuff that we put on it, like all our things go on it, but we don't use it to actually clear it off, to sit down and put our meals in front of us, where we're eye to eye with each other. And I think this is a great opportunity for you, Réal, to have this discussion tonight with your family and reiterate, and then and open up the conversation about what happened, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that are missing, and I don't want you to jump to conclusions, because your son could be really not involved at the level that you are probably really in fear right now, because you're probably right now just hearing bits and pieces. But I think when you get down to it and you talk to him, I know your son, he's got a good heart, and so there's probably some stuff that's in there that's missing, but it still is a great conversation, whether it got to the full-blown bullying or it was just he got invited and then didn't participate fully, or whatever it is. But a great conversation and a great awareness for you to realize, I want to be proactive in this, and I want to, any little thing like this that I hear of, I want to jump on top of it and be ahead of it.
It's so good, Alex. You're so good, because you've been, one of the things we've been working on is being neutral, and just even sitting here talking to you about it, I'm finding I'm really having to dig in to be neutral and be present with you and be in this conversation, because my body's actually hot right now. I'm kind of really kind of disturbed about it, and I'm feeling that going from 0 to 10 on so many levels, this bullying bullying thing just bothers me.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say this was happening with one of your nephews. Now, your nephew, you can think of your nephew like your son, but it's not your son. Your son, if something happened where you find out your son was part of a bullying, scenario, you'd like be hot and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get him home so I can really give it to him. But if it happened to your nephew and your sister calls you and said, hey, bro, will you come over and talk to little Johnny? He needs, and would you be so hot like that if it was your nephew?
No.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you're coming now as Uncle Réal to come and sit down and be compassionate, loving, and understanding that that's what kids do, and you would talk him through a process to have him open his eyes. So all I'm asking you to do is take your son out of the scenario and put the neighbor's kid there, put your nephew, put somebody you still care about and you still love, but don't have it be where you're riled up where no, this is my son, I have to correct this, and free yourself up to be able to be inspiring and empowering tonight with him. And you can only do that from a freed up, neutral place. You can't come from that if you're hot or tagged or you're riled up. So give yourself permission to, since we're making up stuff in our mind anyways, you're creating your own reality. So just decide that you're gonna be the uncle tonight rather than the dad, because the dad part of you wants to get in there and like sit him down and go, what were you thinking, son? Instead of coming from this powerful place.
Awesome. So on my NCIS audition after this, I'll be the angry dad.
There you go.
And then tonight I'll do the uncle role. That's good. Yeah. All right. So listen, we are going to be coming back, and we're going to be coming back with the Rebeccas, and I'm really excited about this because about 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago, I went into bankruptcy. I lost my house, something I worked so hard about. And it's been about, 14 years to get back to a place where I can now buy a house. I'm looking at getting a new house in 2016. I'm excited to be working with the Rebeccas, taking me through the process, making sure that I set myself up for success. So when we come back from the break, what we're going to be talking about is the number one thing that we need to be doing to set ourselves up for success for putting ourselves in a new house. So I'm excited about that. You're listening to Getting Real with Réal Andrews and Alex Urbina right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We'll be right back.